Hey everybody, I'm Joey and today we're here in beautiful Denver, Colorado, where we're gonna learn how to make some incredible barbecue ribs. So follow me and let's meet America. There's a lot of cities known for great barbecue, but Denver isn't one of them yet. Our friend Jason Ganahl is changing the barbecue game. He's a St. Louis transplant who's won numerous championships and awards, and he brought his skills right here to Denver, where today he's gonna show us how to make some incredible barbecue ribs. Now, let's turn up the heat and cook some meat here at the GQue BBQ.
Jason knows my go-to here is the Meltdown. It's a brisket sandwich, and then he's got this killer cheese sauce with his homemade onion rings on it. It's a 10.
I mean, as good as it gets in the barbecue world. So always glad to come back.
All right, Jay, so these are frozen ribs, and you're gonna show us how to trim these up, right?
Yeah, so naturally, Joe, in the restaurant world, you gotta react to all kinds of different scenarios. We ran out of meat yesterday. Our food truck is late this morning, so I stopped off and grabbed some ribs at the grocery store on the way in so we could have something to show you all today.
Great, let's see it.
The first thing I like to do is just look for any just hard fat. That hard fat's not gonna render down, and that's not something you wanna eat when you bite into a rib. You wanna bite into juicy, moist pork, not hard fat. Here in the restaurant, we like to use the pork spare ribs instead of a baby back rib for a couple different reasons. My background is competition barbecue, and in competition, I always cook spare ribs. So it's just what I know, right? Also, there's way more meat on the bone with a spare rib than there is on a baby back. So I think it's a lot more fun. But also you'll notice all of this fat on a spare rib. If we had a rack of babies out here, you wouldn't see all these striations of white fat on here. And you know, like I know, fat is where the flavor is. So we want the most flavorful, the most meaty, the most tastiest rib. And to me, that is hands down a spare rib.
And as we say at Meet America, the fat is where it's at.
So here at GQue, we only have one seasoning, and we call it the rub. And we put this rub on all of our meats. We put it on brisket, we put it on wings, we even put it into our sides. And it's mostly sugar, mostly salt, with a few other seasonings.
Is this something that people can buy online and order direct to their homes?
Yes, we sell a ton of this online. We sell it on our website, we sell it in individual containers, we sell it in 3-pound bags, and then there's even restaurants that use this. We sell it in 50-pound boxes also.
So for people at home that don't have the internet, who are living in the Stone Ages, what should they season with if they don't have access or can't get your rub?
The easiest thing to do is start with a seasoning salt. Lowry's makes an excellent seasoning salt.
Indeed.
And if you're a garlic guy, just add a little bit of powdered garlic or granulated garlic to the rub. So start with a seasoning salt, maybe a little bit of paprika for color, and then add whatever flavors you like. When I'm cooking barbecue, the first thing I want to taste is whatever protein I'm cooking, whatever meat that is. So with these ribs, the first bite I want to taste, I'm not going to drown it in a bunch of sauce. I'll maybe accompany it with a little bit of sauce, but I want to taste smoky pork. So pork should be the first thing, smoke should be the second thing, and then whatever seasoning you're using should be the third thing. So any type of rub that's got a high salt level is really going to enhance that flavor. When you're eating barbecue, to me, that meat should really shine. So salt, pepper, that's really all you need. Maybe a little bit of paprika for a little bit of color, and then just add whatever you like to your favorite
Yeah,
seasoning.
man, that's an excellent explanation. So let's see how you season these, and can you give us some tips or tricks to know when they are, well, as you said, not over seasoned, so that we're getting that smoky pork in our first bite?
Before we season them, you'll see there's this thin membrane on the back of the ribs. I want to go ahead and remove this membrane. By removing it, it's going to allow us to do two things. It's going to allow the rib to be more tender as it cooks because it's not going to have that chewy membrane attached to it. And it's also going to allow us to get that rub flavor down into the meat during the cooking process. Now we've got our ribs. They're skinned and they're ready for the rub.
Okay, so I just want to go back to that good fat, bad fat. We talked about that on the other side.
Yes.
Is there any of that bad fat on this bone side here?
Yeah, no bad fat. All of this is good fat. Sometimes you'll get big chunks of fat right here that we'll remove that, but on neither of these racks are there big enough chunks that we want to take anything off.
Got it. So you talked, I think, just there about over-seasoning, right? About wanting to taste the pork first. How do you know when you have the right amount of seasoning? Is there some kind of general guide you can share with us, either in a mountain form or just visual?
Yeah, so I think you can over-season and I think you can under-season ribs. So if you over-season the ribs, the rub is not going to stick to the meat. Now keep in mind, meat is mostly water. So when the rub hits the meat, it's going to dissolve into the meat. And if you have too much on there, it's going to come off during the cooking process and you're not going to get that really good bark. And if you add too little of rub to it, then you're not going to get the flavor you want and you're not going to get that beautiful bark also too. It's going to be inconsistent. You'll get pockets of cooked meat and then you'll get pockets of really beautiful bark. So to put the right amount of rub on there, if you're unsure, you can coat it and then you just go like that and then the right amount will stick on there. And so if you've got too much rub, it'll come off. And if you've got not enough, then you won't see that beautiful coat of rub.
Well said, man. Great tip. Join us for the Meat America podcast presented by Code 3 Spices as we meet experts and discuss incredible stories, business and life advice, meat, of course, and much, much more. Like a bunch of friends gathered around the grill, the meat brings us together, but the conversation will head in exciting directions. Are you ready for an adventure? Follow along every week as we meet America. All right, Jay, so we have some ribs here in the smoker. Before we open them up and take a look inside, can you tell us a little bit about how you cook these? What temperature do you smoke at, and what kind of wood do you use?
So Joe, we cook these on old hickory pits. These are made in my home state of Missouri, and these pits almost make it too easy to cook on. Used to be you'd have to manage the fire all the time, and that's what makes a good pitmaster from, let's just say, what makes a good experienced pitmaster from an inexperienced pitmaster. With these pits, you just set the temperature, and there's a thermostat that will keep it nice and steady throughout the entire cook. We like to cook ribs at 275 degrees.
Okay.
We use hickory wood. I get it trucked in from Western Kansas. It's all pesticide free. And I find hickory and cherry are the two best woods for the barbecue I like to eat.
Can we open these up?
Yeah,
and take a look inside?
Let's take a look. Watch out. We might get a burst of smoke. Be careful. Oh, I love that smell. It smells so good.
Smells terrific. So let's talk a little bit more about cooking. I mean, I know for those guys getting started at home, there's a ton of questions about cooking and preparing ribs. Can you talk to us a little bit more about the method?
Like you said, there are thousands of different ways to cook ribs. We just like to keep things as simple as possible. We like to start out with a really good protein, a really good rub, a little bit of smoke, and then to ensure that we can cook them extremely consistent. So we don't mess with a lot of different methods and stuff like that. We cook them, we don't wrap them. We cook them until they get just the proper amount of tenderness. And what we do is we think of this rack of ribs, we think of it just giving up, throwing its hands up and saying, I'm done, I'm cooked all the way. And how you can tell is right now there's just still a little bit of fight. We just kind of bend them a little bit, but it'll just kind of give up. Yeah, you get a little bit of cracking right there, but that can be a little misleading depending on how thick the rack of ribs are. So like down here, it's not cracking. So when are you gonna pull it? When it cracks down there, when it cracks all over the place?
Point.
It's more, it comes with a feel, it comes with time. It's why it can't necessarily be learned with just doing it on one rack. But when it just gives up, and you can tell just by touch, just by picking it up. Like these probably still have, I'd say, another 15 minutes. Now, when you cook at 275 degrees, you got about a 20-minute window, in my opinion, to pull these off where they're gonna be just right. So for me, I would come back in about 15 minutes, and this rack of ribs would be just right.
Now, is there an internal temperature? I know you talked about feel, and I think some of that comes with experience. But is there an internal temperature that one can use? Like pulled pork, I always hear 190, 195. Is that same barometer gonna work on ribs?
It can work, but you're gonna get a lot of variance depending on how hot you cook. And also, barbecue is so subjective. Some people would like the fall off the bone rib. Some people would like a little bit of tug to it. So there's really no one right way to do it to please everyone, since everybody has a different preference for how they like the tenderness of their ribs.
Well, that's a really excellent point. And this is something I talk a lot about over on our show at Red Meat Lover. You have a lot of these meat elitists out there that tell you that there's only one right way to do things. Now, I would argue that there probably are some wrong ways to barbecue and cook ribs, but I think what you said there is so beautiful because it really hits to the heart of barbecue and people's personal preferences, right? There's essentially, as you said, thousands of ways, many right ways, many different ways that can still turn up the tasty and make incredible ribs, right?
Turn up the tasty, I love that. Yeah, how boring would it be if everywhere we went, every rib tasted the same and it had the exact same tenderness? Everybody has a different preference, usually based on geography, usually based on where you grew up, but it's all good. It's all good.
All right, Jason, so we talked about some of the different ways to see if the ribs are done, but can you give our audience a general timing guideline about how long you should take?
Yes, so the old saying is if you're a looking, you ain't a cooking, right? So if we keep these ribs in here and we don't open the pit at all, it's about 4.5 hours at 275 degrees.
Okay, we saw the bend test a little bit, but I also see those tips, those bones poking out. Is that about the right depth we want to see, or is there some guideline there?
Yeah, well, you can't go just off the bones, but we talked earlier about the presentation makes for a nice handlebar for the rib, but I like to see a good 1/4 inch or so, and that's usually a good indicator that the ribs are cooked well.
Yeah, man, look at that bark, look at that beautiful mahogany flavor, and I know it's cliche, you guys can't smell it at home, but if you did, you'd be getting hungry right now.
Joe. All right, so this is the glaze we were talking about.
Okay, a
this
little
is
bit of
that
a house
brown
secret.
sugar. Yeah, brown sugar glaze. And so we just like to paint the ribs to add just that one more layer of flavor onto the ribs.
Yeah, Jason, can you give us a little idea of what's in the glaze? I know you can't share the recipe, but just some ideas.
Joe, I can share the recipe with you, but then I got to kill you, and I don't want to do that. I like you, so I don't want to do that.
I want to eat more barbecue, so please don't.
So it's a brown sugar-based glaze. It's got brown sugar, a little bit of butter, and then a little bit of our rub in there.
All right, they're done.
Cheers.
Salud. That has an absolutely incredible smoke ring on it. You can see it right there. It has that good bite that I like with the rib. I don't want something that's gonna fall right off the bone and be mealy. That has a great texture. It's very moist, and man, you can taste that glaze coming through, and that seasoning. Brother, I could put that on shoe leather and eat it for lunch every single day. I'm gonna get back to this rib while you keep cooking. All right, Jay, so one of the things that I know you're known for here is your chicken wings. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you make them?
Yeah, hey Joe, ain't no thing but a chicken wing, and I love a good chicken wing. So we use the rub that we talked about earlier.
Sure.
I love this rub. We put it on everything. And then we smoke it over hickory until it gets that good smoke flavor. We cook them all the way through. So we pull these guys at 165 degrees. And then we finish those with a dunk in the fryer for about 30 seconds. So that gives you really the best of both worlds. Gives you that really good crispy skin and also that delicate smoked meat on the inside.
All right, so these are smoked. That sounds delicious, by the way, but these are smoked. They're gonna go in the fryer next.
Yep.
And then in my belly after that, right?
You got it.
Let's drop them. All right, Jay, so you lightly fried these for a couple minutes, right?
Yep.
And then I saw you hit them with some more seasoning, right? So let's
amp up the flavor. My favorite part, Joe.
All right, salud, my man. The first thing I get hit with is that crunch. I mean, no one wants a chicken wing with that rubbery skin. That fry really punches up that crunch, and then you're biting through the smoky goodness imparted by your smoker, by the wood over here, and you're really tasting just the hints of that sugar and that salt and that garlic that are in here. Man, this is top notch. This is absolutely incredible, man.
Thank you. And I know you eat a lot of wings, so that means a lot coming from you.
I eat a ton of wings. I eat a ton of barbecue. I had a great time hanging out with you today. trying the ribs. Thank you for showing our audience how to make killer championship barbecue right in their own backyards. I had a great time hanging out today,
Good
man.
seeing you, brother.
Let's do it again soon. I'm gonna get back to this wing. If you want to make GQue BBQ ribs right at home, just follow these simple steps. Use pork spare ribs, which have been trimmed to remove all hard fat. Remove the membrane from the back of the ribs. Season with GQue rub or rub of your choice. Once you have the ribs seasoned, turn the rack on its side to remove excess seasoning. Use hickory or cherry wood to fire up the pit and heat your smoker to 275 degrees Fahrenheit. Cook the ribs unwrapped for about 4.5 hours. Finished ribs will bend gently once ready and will also have a 1/4 inch of bone sticking out the side. Remember, people have preferences for the texture of their ribs. Some people like fall off the bone ribs and some people prefer more bite. Cook them how you like them. Finally, remove the ribs from the smoker and finish with a sweet glaze. And today's pro tip to turn up the tasty: remember, if you're looking, you ain't a cooking. Keep the smoker closed, monitor your pit temps, and be patient because you're cooking low and slow. I don't know about you guys, but I had an awesome time hanging out with Jason at GQue BBQ, and we hope you learned a thing or two. Where should we go next? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're down there, if you like this video, you know the drill. Go ahead and hit that big thumbs up like button, or even better, subscribe to our channel so you'll never miss another adventure as we continue to meet America.